Hello, and welcome to Hopeful Hearts podcast. This is Tamara Lexo, the Executive Director of Hopeful Hearts Ministry, and I'm here with my friend Shannon. Hi, Shannon.
Hey everybody. Hi Tamara. This is Shannon Carr. I'm acting like we are. We're talking on a regular podcast, but yet we're on
Yes,
YouTube, so it's really
right.
difficult. Do we talk to the people or anyway,
Yeah,
whatever. We always talk with the people, right? The
yes.
people.
The people. I love
I
it.
tried to do my makeup a little bit today, but
And you look beautiful. You always
well,
look
thank
beautiful.
you. But I need Tamara, for everybody that doesn't know this, Tamara did my wedding makeup. Like she's
Hmm.
just fantastic. She's always
Yeah.
on point. In fact, somebody today, just real quick, I was meeting with somebody for coffee
Hmm.
today, and she saw us speak at a Kingwood Businesswomen brunch when
Hmm.
uh, were we emceeing that. And
Yes.
she said,
Acting
she
like
goes,
queens up
"Oh,
there.
yeah." She goes, "Oh, you do the podcast, right? With the beautiful woman." And I was like, "Yes, that always has your makeup on point." Yes, because she also does Mary Kay, and she was like, "Oh, that makes sense because she
Uh-huh.
just her makeup is beautiful." And I was like, "I know," because and here we are on YouTube, at least every week, and I always look like I'm been running 10 miles, and she is.
I do not.
Anyway, no, I know. I don't.
Ah,
I probably always feel like I always put myself down, and I'm really not. I do feel good about
oh,
myself. It's just that I admire the gifts and talents of others, and I admire you, Tamara.
thank you. Thank
And
you.
and today, I know we probably shouldn't date ourselves by saying things,
No.
but today is the day after Mother's Day.
Yes.
And I just want to wish you a belated happy Mother's Day.
Same to you.
I know that
Same to
you're a
you.
beautiful mom, wonderful mom that do all the
Mm.
things. I had my mom here this weekend. My
Oh,
son
fun.
graduated, yeah, and my mom was here, so I gave her and my beautiful mother-in-law silk pajamas
Oh,
from
that's a
Melissa
great gift.
Sue's,
Oh,
who is a
I love
supporter of
that.
Hopeful Hearts. Melissa
Yes.
Sue's, the Ace Hardware here in Kingwood, Texas. So if you ever
Yes.
want to go by there, please, they help support
Beautiful
Hopeful Hearts,
things.
so support
Yes.
them. And but I just always thought like I knew my mom, she's been going through a lot of medical stuff, and it'd be nice,
Mm-hmm.
just to feel pretty, I guess, or
Yes.
silky. And then,
Yeah.
God bless my mother-in-law who's also going through some medical stuff too. So anyway, it was a good Mother's Day. A little
Good.
like no nothing major, but how was your Mother's Day?
It was good. My people treated me really well.
Good.
Took care of me. And we went to lunch at one of my favorite local spots where all the waiters and waitresses are like my little babies too. So I got lots of hugs yesterday. It was
Oh,
good, and
that's
I
awesome.
saw lots of families from Christ the King, where I worked for 22 years,
Mm.
and got to give lots of hugs to all my littles from there too. So it was a
I
good
love that.
day. It was a good day. I felt loved. It's always a bittersweet day for me. Um, because I have been without my mom for so long. She took her own life in 1997.
Hmm.
And so I have a lot of grief that resurfaces through different times of the year, different holidays, that were extra special to her, and then Mother's Day. And I went through 5 years of um, infertility before we had our daughter and then our son shortly after. And so I know what it feels like to be a motherless child, and I know what it feels
Mm.
like to be a childless mother. And that grief, I empathize with so many women out there that want to be mothers and
Mm.
have not yet been able to experience that for whatever reason. And I remember the first Mother's Day that Chuck and I were married. For some reason, he was out of town. I know it was for work because he used to travel a lot with his work, but, he was out of town, and I thought it would be good for me to go to church by myself day.
Mm,
Um, just, like, 3 weeks before, I had had an ectopic pregnancy that,
mm,
um, they had to remove that, and, um, and I was healing well, and I was feeling good, and I thought, "Well, I'm gonna go to church." And so this was in '99, and so it was my 2nd, uh, well, 3rd, I guess, the 3rd Mother's Day without my mom, and I went into church to the late service, which was always the busiest service, and went in by myself, and I sat down in an empty row near the back. This family comes in, husband, wife, and they have 6 children, and an usher comes up to me and was like, "Excuse me, ma'am, would you mind, moving to this other aisle because they need the seats?"
mm,
And I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay," so I get up and I move so that they could all, because there were seats around, where it was like, "Oh, there's 2 seats here or 3 seats here," but they,
mhm.
there was
Wanted to
uh,
sit
8
together.
of them. Yeah.
Mhm,
So I got it. So I go and I sit in another aisle where there was like 3 seats, and a different usher came to me and was like, "Excuse me, ma'am, could we have you move over here?" And I just got up and left because
You're like, "Okay, it's fine."
it was like, um, I get it. I'm not a mom. I'm not here with my mom. Like it was just like, I'm just this woman here by myself at church, and please let's
Mm,
make space for all the moms. And it was Mother's Day. I mean, every mother had a right to sit with her children that day.
right.
I totally get it. And I know that those ushers would have been mortified if they had known the grief that I was going through. But
Mhm. But you were a
I
mother
just,
too. Like, I don't,
yes.
yes, you
And
lost a child in a
that's the thing. It was
miscarriage, but
like I was a
yeah.
mother and a daughter, but I didn't have a mother or a child
Mhm.
visible. I didn't have
Right.
that. And so uh, just the grief was too much. And so
Mhm,
I just got up and left. But that's what we wanted to talk about today is grief and how we deal with the grief after
mhm,
abusive relationships from our past, after traumatic events that we have gone through, because I think a lot of times grief gets assigned to death only.
right.
And um and while death of course is something that we grieve, we grieve the people that we love the most, but there are so many other ways that grief unfolds in our life. And
Mhm,
one of the best excuse me, one of the best um explanations I ever heard about grief was saying that it's when we have an expectation for the way our life is going to look, but life doesn't meet that expectation. And so there's a place between the two where it's like we had this expectation, and not even that the expectation was too high, but we had that expectation. Life only came to here. And
mhm,
so this space between is where grief lies. Whether
mhm,
it's I expected to be in this job position and it didn't happen, or I expected this holiday to go really well and it didn't, or I
mm,
expected to be a mother by now and I'm not, or I expected to be a father by now and I'm not. I expected whatever, all the
mhm,
things that we expect and plan for in life. And then when life doesn't come up to that space
mhm.
between makes
Well, and
makes life a
gosh, the
grief.
minute you just said that, and I just think about because I had certain things taken from me at such a young age,
Yes.
virginity in
Mhm.
itself, and so even that expectation that like I wish like I no long I can't hold that. Like I can't say that
Right.
I got to do that on my own. And I remember going
Mhm.
through a grief aspect of that and always wishing
Yeah.
that I could get it back. Could I just get it back? Could I just
Mhm.
start over, right?
Yeah.
And I think that grief, you're so right in the grief in whatever aspect we're dealing with, whether it be trauma, whether it be true death or, a loss of an expectation
Mhm.
in itself, um, is so valid in just that we can vision ourselves or vision a future, and then if it changes that. And I think that's what makes it so
And
hard.
we adjust, I think it's if we are healthy or
Mhm,
we're at least working on our mental and emotional health, we learn to adjust. But it's
mhm,
like I think people think that grief gets smaller, that it shrinks as time goes on. And I don't believe that. I think the grief stays the same. I think we grow around it.
mhm,
It's like um if you think about, water in a jar and you've got 1 cup of water in that jar, it's like, well, if you put it in a smaller jar, it seems really,
a
oh,
lot,
it's
yeah.
a lot of water. That's a lot. There, you put it in a big jar, it doesn't seem like so much. And so I think when we grow around it, it makes the grief seem smaller because we have so many more experiences and we've learned
Mhm,
so many things that the grief doesn't take up as much space in us, but
mhm,
it's still the same thing. We still miss,
mhm,
I still miss my mom. I still
absolutely.
I still miss um, sitting down and talking with her. I still miss her cooking for me, for my friends. I think as life goes on, the thing I miss the most are again, it's those things that never happened, those expectations, because
Mm,
I was only 19 when I lost her. So I never got to really truly experience her as an adult
mhm,
and a friend. Like we had just entered into that space where we were
mhm.
getting along and because I was a brat as a teenager and
Who
and
wasn't?
right, but we butted heads a lot, and just in the year before she died, we had just come into a space where we were getting along, and we'd actually started working at the same place, shortly before she died. So we were like coworkers, and we worked in the same hair salon. But I grieved when
Mm,
I was pregnant with my daughter and giving birth, and that my mom wasn't there. I had a total meltdown my daughter's first Easter because I had this cute Easter dress for her and it got cold and I needed to get like a little sweater for her or something. And I couldn't find one anywhere because we live in Houston and it's April and nobody has sweaters for kids in April. And so I had this meltdown because my mom was an excellent seamstress and I thought she could have just whipped something up if
mhm.
she had been here. The reality is she probably would have said, "Just give her a blanket, she's fine." But you know,
Right.
but my grief came in that my mom should be here for this moment.
Mhm,
She should,
mhm,
I went through that again when my daughter graduated high school and I'm struggling with it now. There's been this huge amount of grief because now my daughter's 19
mhm,
and so I'm reliving a lot of the experiences that I had at 19
mhm,
and the last real conversation that she and I had together um was she was grieving because my dad had left and it was looking like they were not going to get back together and she felt like she wasn't needed because my husband, we had just started dating and she had met him and she loved him. And she says, I just feel like I'm not needed anywhere. Your dad doesn't need me anymore. He has another woman. You don't need me because you have Chuck. And I was like, no, I need you. But in her
Mhm.
mind, she felt unneeded because I was on the cusp of being an adult. And, so now a lot of that grief comes from all the times since I was 19 that I've needed her and
Mhm.
she wasn't here. So it goes back to that
Mhm.
expectation versus reality
Yeah,
thing.
I get it.
What about you?
I
You have
well,
lost a
I felt,
parent.
I know, and it's funny that I was experiencing all of that this weekend as well. It wasn't my
Mhm,
mother, it was my father. And my
mhm,
son graduated with honors from U of H. He got magna
mhm.
cum laude. And I keep saying that. And I know people are like, quit, who cares? Maybe. I don't know what people
No,
think, but the
your
reason
mom
why it
cares.
matters, that's right. And but also the reason why it matters so much is that, I mean, look, the grief is so near. I want to cry just thinking about it. My dad, education was so huge for my father. And my dad helped us, my ex, the boy's father, and I pay
Mhm.
for private school for them. And he
Oh,
was very proud of them. And just, he was so proud of both boys. And he used to always say, like, if anybody graduates any of the louds, right? Summa
yeah,
cum, summa, magna, or cum, like that was just a huge deal for him. And he was going to offer them, a certain something for graduation or whatever.
right.
And, Seth didn't find out until literally the week of, or and so Seth didn't even order his cords. Like, you have to order all this stuff. You kind of have
Yeah,
to know. And later I find out Seth did know. He knew what his GPA was, but he wasn't sure if he was going to be, he was 3 points from Summa,
right.
the top
Oh,
one,
wow.
and then whatever. So he just didn't order any. I'm like, that's such a guy, right? That's such a
Yeah.
boy. I would have been like, order both.
Mhm. Right.
We'll figure
Me
it out.
too.
But anyway, so he didn't have his cords, but I just, it just, it's one of those moments, and I know you feel this, like I wanted to call my dad. Like I
Yeah.
wanted, it mattered to my mom, it mattered to all of
Of
us, but I
course.
wanted to call my dad and just be like, oh, and some people might think I'm crazy when they say that, when I say this, but I think most people actually do understand what I'm about to say. But you have these little signs that somebody's with you. I would love to hear
Mhm,
if you have one with your mom, but
mhm.
um, I have a few. But I do. If you see 1111 or any same number, I always feel like that all my
Mm.
love, my I lost a child as well. My oldest was a twin, and I lost. I named him Michael in utero, but so I feel him with me at that time as well. I feel he's with my father. But lately, in walking my dogs, I always see, and it's only once, and it's a 30, 45 minute walk, and only one time I will see a red cardinal. It'll pop in and it'll pop out. And I always feel like it's my dad. I'm like, hey, dad. And I literally have gotten to like, hey, dad, I see you, whatever. And then there have been moments where I really needed him, or I've really been thinking about him, and I didn't go on a walk, or I didn't do anything. And I was in Austin about a month ago, and I had a red cardinal literally fly into the window. And I'm like, okay, okay, thank you. Like, it was such a moment because I just been thinking of my father. And then that happened. It happened again Friday. Sitting here, and I'm facing my windows, and sure enough, and it's been raining, so I haven't been able to take the dogs on a walk. And I was having this moment of just like, I really wish that my dad could be here in all of this. And this red cardinal flies into the window. Like when I say flies into the window, like
Yeah, I
hit it
know.
to where I would have to look up and go, oh my gosh, okay, thank you, Dad. And anyway, so for me, I think that does help. It helps me, to know that, at least in my belief of faith, that I feel like that our loved ones are always with us, even the children that we've lost, no matter how we lost them or
Mm,
how early on
yeah.
we have lost them. I do believe that they are
Mhm.
with us as well. But anyway, so
I need you to
I
get
I
out of my
so
head because I
oh, of course, we're
I
in each
also
other's
have a
head.
thing with the cardinal.
Really?
My mom loved birds. She loved birds, but she especially loved cardinals.
Mm.
And at my last house that we lived in, I put bird feeders out and bird bath and all, but to draw the birds in. This house, my next door neighbor has tons of bird feeders. And so I had put bird feeders out when we first moved in, but I couldn't keep the squirrels off of them because we have this big lot now with lots and lots of trees, and the squirrels were crazy. Um, and so I just decided, I was like, okay, I'm keeping the bird bath out, but I'm not going to put the feeders out anymore because I'm just feeding the squirrels. But the birds go to my neighbor's yard to eat, but they nest in my yard because we have
Mm.
there's just so much foliage in our backyard, lots and lots of bushes
Who
and
wouldn't want to nest in the
trees,
Lexos yard? I mean, I would want to come and live at your house too.
right?
So,
But right outside my living room window, there are some bushes that are really thick and they're tall. They go up to the top of the window. And there has been a pair of cardinals that have lived, they've nested in those bushes since
Mhm.
we moved in. And I actually did some research and I learned that cardinals mate for life. And so last, no, 2 years ago, I guess it was, they had a baby that we watched the mama and the daddy both feeding this baby. And now this year, there are two pairs of cardinals that are nesting out there. And I love watching them because it makes me think of my mom so much. And yesterday, on Mother's Day, I'm standing at the kitchen and my husband and my son and my daughter, they're all standing there. We're talking, and I had this brief moment where I was like, I just wish my mom knew my kids and could be here to enjoy moments like this because it was such a joyful moment. And then I started to almost like shame myself, like, stop thinking about what could have been, like, just be in the moment, like just
Mhm.
experience this joy, stop thinking about what's lacking. And I had my back to the window to the kitchen sink, and Chuck and the kids are both go, and they're like pointing. And I turned around. I was expecting like a hummingbird or something, but I turned around and I saw this cardinal fly away. And they all said, like, this cardinal flew up and was just like hovering, flapping its
No.
wings like it was looking in. Now, I'm sure it was probably look, you could see its reflection, except my windows are really dirty. So I don't think,
I don't
I don't
think
think
we
it was
should explain away what I
right.
feel like we know,
But it was
in
this
my
moment where
opinion.
it was
Yes.
like, and I didn't, I just saw it fly away, but all of them, they were like, Mom, look. And
Mm.
they're like, when does the cardinal hover? I mean, it was just like it was there, like just flapping and being there in that moment.
Mm.
And I am grateful to God for giving me moments like that.
Mm. Mhm.
When when I'm sad and I'm thinking about what I'm missing, I feel like God gives us those moments just
Mhm.
to bring some joy back in, to allow us to return to joy.
Mhm.
And I think that's the most important part of processing grief is I don't think that we ever get to the other side. People talk about you have to push through and then when you're on the other side of grief, I I don't think there's
Mhm.
another side. I really
Mhm.
don't. I don't think you get to the end and you go, "Oh, finish that. I'm gonna leave that behind." I've not
Yeah.
experienced that. I think we absorb it, we accept it, it becomes part of us, and then, like I said, we grow around it. We
Mm.
become bigger so that we can experience joy and
Mhm.
healing,
Mhm.
because if we stay stuck in the little jar with the great big grief, then
Mhm.
it suffocates us.
Mhm.
And we have to grow around it and heal around it and experience joy again because God offers that to us.
Right.
He says it's ours for the taking. He wants us to have it.
I think some of the the most admirable people I know are those that have lost, children or lost,
Oh, yes.
just really, really close. If everybody, I have a tattoo on my chest here. It's a blue heart and it says in his hands. And the reason why I chose to put it on my chest is so that I could see it all the
Yeah.
time and remind me, how precious life is and that God has us in his hands no matter
Mhm.
what. And this is for a young man that he was 1 month before his 12th birthday and he accidentally hung himself. And he was one of my very good girlfriends, very best friend's son. And so I was very close to the situation. And I admire her so much because she has, I mean, this was, oh my gosh, we were talking about this the other day. Like, I think I'd have to look at the date. She was saying like 21 years old now or
Yeah.
20 years old or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a long time and there's so much and she can experience joy and she can experience
Mhm.
happiness, but you know that there's still always that. I mean, it's always there, right? He's always there, but she
Yes.
also embraces that of this gift of our faith, right? And knowing that he is
Mhm.
watching over and that he is,
Yeah.
with her. And along with that, this weekend at my son's party, I had another conversation with a mother who lost her son. He was 32, 33, I think she said, when he
Mm.
was suddenly taken. It was a really horrific, not a car accident, different kind of accident. I won't go there
Mhm.
because it's, I think, under investigation still. But
Mm.
and he had so much life, and he was very good
Yeah.
looking, and just been married, and they hadn't had kids yet, and just
Mm.
like when life is so full, right? And then then they
Yeah.
go, and so it's like, and this has only been a year, I think, since this has
Oh.
happened, and um, but yet here she was, like I'm in so much gratitude towards her and her husband for showing
Mhm.
up to celebrate my son. Like I would only imagine that that has to be
Yeah.
hard, right? I
Right.
mean,
Right.
just celebrating Mother's Day, it's hard
Mm.
for you. Like in
Mhm.
celebrating Father's Day, it's hard for me. And that's
Mhm.
my father, and I got to have him for a long time. Like
Right.
I just could imagine. Or if another thing spoke to me when you very first started talking, and it was about just not, you know, having that ectopic, is that how you
Mhm.
say it?
Yeah.
Pregnancy
Ectopic.
or any kind of
Mhm.
miscarriage, or for those that just can't seem to get pregnant, but their
Mhm.
heart, like they feel like a mother, like they long to be a
Yeah.
mother. And
Mhm.
I think that in itself is I can know that grief. I can understand that grief
Mhm.
and that longing for somebody that still has yet, after a decade, probably hasn't had a child
Mm.
yet. And
Yeah.
so that grief that they suffer,
Mhm.
but yet they still find moments of joy and happiness. There's such a gift
Right.
in that. And I just applaud everybody who is
Yes.
able to live life still,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Even though we don't have that have that longing fulfilled yet.
Mhm.
I wanted to mention the 5 stages of grief,
Yes.
and kind of go through that a little bit, knowing that there's not, you're in this stage and then you're in this stage and then, I mean, there's
Right.
no, there, you could go through all 5 in an
It's not
hour.
linear. Linear. Linear? Is that the
Right.
right word?
Yeah, it's not linear. It's you
Just
could be in
jumps
one
around.
stage for a long
Mhm.
time. You could go through
Mhm.
all 5 of them. It's all over the place, but you're
Yeah.
going to experience denial of, are they really gone? Am I really going
Mhm.
through this? Like this can't be happening. Anger's one that's probably off and on all the time, right? Just
Yes.
anger at the situation,
Mhm.
it could be anger at the person, it could be anger
Mhm.
at whoever might have been involved in it happening or
Mhm.
the situation or
Yeah.
whatever. Bargaining. Look, Lord, I promise I'll never forget, like just praying. I was, if you'll just allow me, my son. So mine were twins, and I lost a twin, not knowing if Ryan was going to survive. And I just
Mhm.
remember praying, like, please, Lord, if you'll just do this, like I will be at mass, I promise, every day, every Sunday. I'll do this and this and this, and I'll do whatever you need if you'll just let
Mhm.
me, have this child survive, depression. I mean, depression that I
Yeah.
think in all our traumas, depression is
Mhm.
something that we have to um, talk about a lot, I think,
Mhm.
because that is so prevalent. And
Yes.
then the acceptance, which is I think what we're talking about, and being able to
Mhm.
still, accept. Okay, I get this. I'm going to accept it. I don't want to, but I know that I need to live my life not only for me but for those around me.
Mhm.
God clearly still has something to do within
Right.
me too
Mhm.
here.
Yeah.
Um, my friend this weekend, the one that lost the adult child, said she would always pray for her children and say, uh, please do not take them until they're how did she say it? Something like until they're ready, right? Until you
Mhm.
see fit that they're ready. And she goes, I had no idea he would be ready, you know, at
Right.
this age. And she said,
Yeah.
however, I prayed that so much that I have to accept that they were ready.
Yeah.
And even our unborn
Wow.
child,
Mhm.
was ready. That just the existence of that child for even a moment
Mhm.
brought something into our world
Yeah.
and had a purpose, you
Right.
know?
I used to bargain when we'd gone through several miscarriages. We lost 5 and then went through a really long spell of not being able to get pregnant at all. And I saw a woman speaking one day about having a child with Down syndrome. And she talked about the grief at the time of, that she had longed for a child for so long because of the things that she imagined, motherhood would look like for her and what it would look like to have a daughter and all the things that she would do with her daughter. And then when her baby was born with Down syndrome, she had to adjust, go back to that expectation and reality. And so her reality didn't meet up to that expectation, but she had to adjust it and say, okay, well, this is what God has given me. And she was talking about the blessings that came out of adjusting and saying God had a plan in this. And I heard that day and I started bargaining with
Mm,
God. I went into I will never forget. I for several weeks I bargained with God, like, God, I will take a child with disabilities. Like if I just want a child, like just I'm not even going to be one of those selfish people that asks for a healthy baby. Like, like
mhm,
just give me a baby. And that was that was just part of the grief that I was going through.
mhm,
Time, bargaining and said, if God, if you will just do this, then I will.
mhm,
And it is a legitimate stage that everyone grieving goes through, and it may be a really short 5-minute pass through. It may be a long. I spent a long time in anger.
mhm,
I spent years and years and years in anger, so much so that and I've talked about this before, that when I went into Celebrate Recovery and did my first 12 step, it was anger was what I was really needing to deal with. And that was one of the first layers that God healed back in my healing journey, was allowing me to, I don't want to say overcome the anger completely, because I still will occasionally have moments of anger, but um, I quit being the Incredible Hulk. There's a
mm,
line in one of the Avenger movies where Captain America is like behind Bruce Banner, and he's like, hey, Dr. Banner, now would be a good time to get angry. And Dr. Banner turns around and is like, Yeah, that's my secret. I'm always angry, and all of a sudden he goes, "Woof," and he becomes the and, and when I first saw that movie, I was like, "Oh, that used to be me." I was
Mm,
always angry, like, when I was jovial and happy-go-lucky and like, that was my act. It was,
mhm,
it was like I always felt like the whole I didn't, being Bruce
mhm,
Banner was the party trick for me. It
mhm,
wasn't turning into the big green man. Like that's who I was.
mhm,
And so God did come in and work in my life, in my story, so that, I learned tools to not be angry all the time.
mhm. And I think sometimes it's about, and this goes into, if you've lived so long having overcome some sorts of trauma from childhood,
Mhm.
or I mean, most of us have been through probably that and betrayal and
Yes.
grief because of
Yes.
death. Like you and I both probably have. I
Yep.
mean, not just probably, I know we have multitude of
Yes.
different things that we have grief over. And I think probably one of the biggest and hardest things that I've had to do was just learn how to be so oh, what's the word I want to use? Accepting of my new situation. Sometimes
Yeah.
we want to just stay in the anger or stay in
Mhm.
this sense of a toxic self because it's exactly who it's just what's comfortable. It's what we know.
Yeah.
We've lived in it so long
Or like
that
if
we don't,
if I stay angry,
right.
then I know what the
It
outcome of
protects
that
you.
is. Like it protects
Right.
me. You're not
Yeah.
gonna get close to me if I'm angry. Mm.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's a protection. Like, I think maybe we were talking off camera, or maybe did you say it earlier? Like, sometimes we can sabotage
Oh,
some
yeah.
things, right? In
Mhm.
order to just feel normal. As
Right.
as effed up, excuse my language, as that
Mm-mm.
sounds, it's true. It's true. If you are so used to living in that space,
Mhm.
and you feel too vulnerable if you allow yourself to be fully transparent and fully vulnerable in the
Yeah.
sense of okay, I'm not going to stay in this place of anger, because when you're angry,
Right.
man, you feel that power, you feel this sense of,
Yes.
oh,
It's like
nobody's going to get
adrenaline.
me, and yeah, nobody's
Mhm.
going to
Yeah.
and so then it is kind of it's an unhealthy way to protect yourself. And
Mhm.
so I think that's one of the hardest things we have to do, and what you and I do when we help people with
Yes.
hopeful hearts, is to try to lead them out of that, and
Right.
to accept that vulnerability, but recognize in that vulnerability that you are still very much protected, and that you are still
Mhm.
very much strong. You're even stronger when you
Yes.
allow yourself to get out of that sense of anger. It's
Yes.
like being, another way that I can relate it to is, as I attended Al-Anon, they talked about dry alcoholics. Like, so
Mm.
those that come in, they go to AA, they're no longer drinking, but yet they still act the very
Yes.
same way. It's because that's the only way that they knew how, and that's what they
Mhm.
feel comfortable with. And so that's why an Al-Anon, you learn not to, what's the word I want to use? I'm losing all my words today. To
Okay.
to aid that. What's the word when
Yes.
you
Enable.
uh enable? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Um, so yeah,
Mhm.
but I always thought about that in my own self in regards to being, a survivor, thriver, is
Right.
that how long did I live in this sense of I'm surviving, but that
Mhm.
surviving really was also toxic, because in certain situations I would just go ahead and be the first to maybe say something to
Yeah.
escalate so that
Mhm.
nobody else could say whatever to make me feel
Right.
bad. So as long as I was the first one, maybe to get
Yeah.
in the first punch, if you will, not
Mhm.
physical, but just the first verbal. then it was just, okay, well, this is what I'm used to and this is what I can handle. And I know how to go from here
Yeah.
in that.
Have you seen the movie Talladega Nights?
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh,
Will
what are you about to
Ferrell
say?
and Ricky Bobby. Um, there's a scene there where, like, when the dad finally comes back and they're sitting there, and it's Ricky Bobby and his two boys, and he's there. He's got his mom and his dad, and they're eating at an Applebee's. And his mom is
Hmm.
like, "Well, this is just about perfect. And I think we should come back to this exact Applebee's every week on this night, and we should all order the same thing, you know, like, because this is just perfect." And the dad is like, uh, no. And he causes a scene then, and he tells the waitress that there's something wrong with the steak, and he completely blows up the moment. It causes this huge, ugly scene, and they kick him out of Applebee's. And so Ricky Bobby like follows them outside, and he's like, "What was that about? We were having this great time." And he's like, "I can't handle when things are perfect and smooth. I
Mm,
got to blow it up. Something in me." And I think it's a protection mode that
hmm
we use sometimes, because it's like things are going so good, and in my experience, when things are going good, a shoe is going to drop.
hmm
And so if I can control this situation,
I just got
then
the chills. That's funny.
I can just throw a shoe down myself instead of waiting for it to drop unexpectedly. Then
Hmm.
I've got control of the situation, you know. And
Hmm.
so I see this a lot um in people who are grieving over, a broken marriage, broken family, and so then, like, at holidays, when it's
Hmm.
like holidays were really messy for a long time. So this feels really perfect, but I don't know what a perfect holiday feels like. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw a shoe down, because I don't want one to drop unexpectedly. So I'm going to mess this up so I can be
Hmm.
in control of how I grieve this situation. And I'm not, slapped upside the head by grief that I don't understand or I wasn't expecting.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's sad.
Hmm.
It's
Well,
real, but it's
oh
sad
my
because
gosh, yeah.
I think of how many times I've done that with life, and how many missed opportunities I had, like
Hmm.
when there were moments for extreme blessing, and I screwed it up because I couldn't handle the perfect of the moment, because I didn't know what that felt like.
Hmm.
I didn't know, you know.
I did it I did it last night. Are you in my head too?
Yeah, I am.
I
Tried
mean,
looking at it earlier.
I did this, and I know that you and I have talked about this. I need to go back into therapy. For everybody
Mm.
that know, I've been going to therapy since, I don't know, I was 18, 19,
We're both
off and
pros at
on.
going.
Word pros. And what
Mhm.
I do is I literally, and this is truly how it gets, you deal with one aspect
Right.
and you work through it. And then,
Mhm.
you do need, it's okay. You do need to then say, okay, I kind of need to take a break, and
Mhm.
I'm good. But then you really get to where you recognize, like, I'm recognizing, "Oh, I probably could go back into therapy."
Mhm.
And you know what you need to deal with. And this
Right.
happens to be the thing I need to deal with is right now, I in my almost 50 years of life, I'm almost 50.
Almost
Anyway,
50.
I have never been happier. Like, I have never fully felt as blessed, and at, like, with my children and my job and
Mhm.
my this hopeful hearts and
Right.
my husband and everything. And because my life has been so chaotic, um i do I am constantly, like, fearful of, okay, what's about to happen, what's about to happen,
Yeah.
what's about to happen. And I get nervous, and I get, like, I can even freak myself out where I'm in the car thinking, you know, oh, this is how chaotic my mind is, but hopefully other people understand this. Like, am I going to go over this bridge? Like, I mean, I get so where I'm like holding tight to the
Too.
steering wheel and just praying, like, as I'm going over an
I'm not
overpass,
laughing at
like,
you. I'm laughing because I do the same thing. I'm like,
oh my gosh, please, dear
I
Jesus, help me
accidentally
get
drive
over
off this
this,
overpass.
you know? I just look at me, I get nervous and I start
I
playing with
know.
things.
I know.
So last night, this weekend, here my son graduates, and I will say I'm very proud. I'm very proud of his dad and I, my ex-husband and myself. We have been through a lot of hell, and my son wanted to have a party and all of us, and there's no reason why we can't all come together and love our child, and we all love we all love my son, and so it was hard. I'm not even gonna lie, it was hard. There's no doubt. I know it was
Yeah.
hard for my ex. It was hard for me. It was hard for my new husband. It was hard for
Mhm.
my ex's new wife. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard, right? But
Mhm.
but you do it, and we did it, and it went really well. It really did. Went really, really well. I'm very proud of all of us. And but with that being said, it's like all these good things. Again, I'm even reinforced how much like I love my husband, Russ, and I love my
Yeah.
kids. I love my bonus kids. For those of y'all that don't know, like I had to have a hysterectomy when I was 30. And I'd always thought that maybe I could have a bigger family, but then
Mhm.
also psychologically, I didn't think I could. And so we at the time decided to stop at the two, but I ended up
Mhm.
having to have a hysterectomy anyway. So I grieved that. That was another grief
Yeah.
thing that I had. But now here I have these three beautiful bonus children as well. And so I have that big family. So all this stuff is really coming together. And yesterday's Mother's Day, and had this great brunch with my mom, and just all this, and at the end of the
Mhm.
night, like, one little thing didn't happen, right? One little thing didn't happen, and I immediately, I mean, it was about something stupid. My husband came in, he was like, "Oh, I
Mhm.
did this," and I went, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, you did
Mhm.
that." And he's like, "What is going on?" And I just started a fight.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's what I'm used to. Like, something
Yeah.
needed to not be right.
Right.
Something needed to not be good.
Mhm.
And so I had to make sure that it all happened so
Mhm.
that I could feel
I need
okay
to grieve
again.
this some more because
Yeah,
I don't know how to be joyful in a situation
right,
like this. I only know how to feel grief on a day like this.
right. And maybe if there's just a little bit that just doesn't feel right or good, then maybe God won't
Mhm.
make me go over that overpass when I'm crossing over it next
Right.
time. You know, I
Right.
mean,
That's how he
maybe if
works.
I
Just joking.
I mean,
It doesn't work that way.
Tamara and I both know that this is so ludicrous, but I mean, it is how our brains are,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
and and I saying it out loud feels better, to be honest with you. Hence
Mhm.
why we also do what we do at Hopeful Hearts, so that
Exactly.
it's supposed to bringing out and into the light, and just confidently
Exactly.
talk with us, and we can help you with that. But anyway, thank you for letting me share my craziness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just want to say for anyone who's listening or watching us that we can laugh about these things. We can laugh at each other or with each other, however you choose to hear it. But I mean, you've heard us say, like, get out of my head because we do share a lot of the same ideas that, as we've processed our grief and the traumas that we've gone through, the abuse that we've gone through, we've had some of the same correct thoughts and we've had some of the same incorrect thoughts. And it's so good to have someone to talk to hold accountable, so if she's talking to me and I'm like, well, that's not going to happen, right? That's not how God works, right? And it's like, yeah, I do. And that is what we do with Hopeful Hearts Ministry. We are here to help you process your life, to help you process the stories of your life, of the trauma from your past, the abuse that you've gone through, um, the feelings that you had, the feelings that you still have, the feelings that you're working through. Um, a lot of times we can compartmentalize and say, "Oh, well, I that was then and this is now." But if we've never dealt with it, we've never talked to someone about it, then it pops out in crazy ways, like what she and I have said, where where we can try to mess up a day or a relationship or a moment. We can keep people at bay because, well, if I let someone in too close, I'm going to get hurt. Um, I don't want to love too many people because I've lost too many people, and you know, I don't want to lose anybody else. I can't take that. We can live in a place where we don't set expectations for our life because we're so used to not having our expectations met that we set the bar way too low. Excuse me. And we stop living the life that God laid out for us. We don't allow ourselves to become the person that we could be, the healthy, joyful person. We don't become the leader that we were intended to be. We don't become the mother, the father, the wife, the husband, the sister, the cousin, the neighbor, the friend. We don't live up to our full potential
Mhm.
when we try to shove all of that stuff in a box in the back of our head and we never deal with it.
Right.
So if you find yourself in that situation, you're listening now and you go, you know what? Some things that I've never talked about to anybody.
Mhm.
I have some things that maybe I am grieving in my life. You know, I think we get in that mindset sometimes too of saying, well, I never lost anyone. I've never had anyone close to me die. So I don't know what grief is. But as we said earlier, there are so many things that we can grieve when the reality of life doesn't meet our expectation. And all of us, I don't care who you are, if you are living and breathing and you have walked on the face of this earth, you have experienced something worth grieving. You have
Mm.
experienced some loss. You've gone through some abuse, emotional, physical, sexual, all of the above, any of the above. It doesn't have to be any one certain abuse. You have experienced some kind of trauma in your life. We are here for you. We are here to help you find the tools that you need, process that. We're here to listen without judgment. I swear to you, you will not find two people that are less judgmental about your life than Shannon and I, because if there's a mistake, we've made it. I Do you agree?
Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah.
I don't want to just speak for you, but I feel like that
Yes.
is for you. Like, if there's a
Yes.
mistake, we've made it. If there is a loss, if we've either experienced it or someone near us had, like, we are never the person that's going to listen to your story and go, "You are a crackhead." Like, no, that you do that
Right.
in my face. That's never going to happen because we just have too much empathy. We,
Mhm.
more than we should sometimes. But
Well,
um
and I don't have the right. I mean,
right,
I
that's
don't.
my thing. I'm like, I don't have the right to
Yeah.
judge you because I have lived some crazy. I
Mhm.
have lived
Yeah.
some crazy in my life. So we are here to listen to you and help you get unstuck. We're here
Mm.
to help you find the path to your healing, whether that is, through programs that we offer for free at Hopeful Hearts Ministry, or whether that is helping you find a therapist that would be a
Mhm.
good fit for you, encouraging you on, a different step, helping you get plugged into an Al-Anon or Celebrate Recovery. That we are here to help you get on your path because we do not want to see people stuck in their trauma.
Mhm.
We want you to thrive in this life and to be the best version of who you are. So, Shannon, where can they find us?
Uh, hopefulheartsministry.org.
Yes, that is where we are.
hopefulheartsministry.org. And then also just our emails are, you can do info or
Mhm.
Tamara, Tamara, or Shannon at hopefulheartsministry.org.
Yes.
Um, and I just, if anything, even if you're just unsure, it doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be a forever relationship that we have
Right.
to have. But everybody wants to have a relationship with us forever,
Everybody
I'm
wants that.
sure. No, but I mean, it could be a one-time phone call. I
Yeah.
mean, we're actually not meant to, be with you for a long period of time. This is just to help and encourage and listen
Mhm.
and help guide you in the direction that, the Lord's calling you to.
Yeah,
And to
absolutely.
just be a support. Honestly, I
Yeah.
have people that I've worked with from the beginning, 11 years ago, that'll still every now and then text me and say, "Hey, just
Mhm.
pray for me on this," or
Yes.
"Do you mind if we do a quick phone call? I just need to talk this out,"
Yes.
and that's cool. That's great. I mean, I
It
have
is.
Tamara, so I just call Tamara.
Right.
Um,
Same. Hey, help me
uh,
process this so I don't have to pay for therapy today.
exactly, exactly. But I'm grateful for you all giving us a listen, and please do share us if you will. You never know.
Yes.
In all honesty, you may never know
Yeah.
who around you may need to hear something that we're saying that may speak to them.
Mhm.
Maybe they have something they haven't shared with you. So please do
Mhm.
share us. And also, if you are with a company, this is something new that we brought up. Tamara and I kind of
Yes.
came up with this. We do women's retreats. We do speak at different events.
Mhm.
But we are also, something that I've done in the past and that Tamara and I have discussed is working with different companies, small
Yes.
businesses. If you want
Mm.
to bring us in for a, self-care, self-awareness day for your
Mhm.
employees, we have different programs that we could do with them as well. So, and
Yes.
everything that goes to us goes directly back into the
Right.
ministry as well. So,
Because if you want to
you're,
see your employees or your team members uh, learning how to set healthy boundaries or really just becoming the leader that they need to be, it's going to mean letting go of some of the junk from the past. So we
Mhm,
have programs that we have worked on to come in and help your team do that.
mhm.
So, Shannon, thanks for talking about grief with me today.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
kind
I
of
feel
expected us to
better. Do you
cry a
feel
little bit, but we
lighter?
laughed a lot.
I know. I mean, I had the moments and then I was like, okay.
Right. I know when
So
you
I
started
feel
talking about the
better.
cardinal, my eyes were welling up. I'm like, oh, this is it. This is gonna be the first time I cry on here. This is it. This is it. And then we started laughing. So
Oh,
uh,
that's funny.
it's good to laugh with you, friend. And
Same here.
listeners, it's good to spend time with you today. Thanks for listening or watching Hopeful Hearts podcast. Bye.
Bye, guys.